I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
In 1884, Sarah Winchester, the widow of gun manufacturing tycoon William Winchester, turned an unfinished farmhouse in San Jose, California into a 7-story mansion, where Sarah had carpenters constantly renovating the house up until her death in 1922 in order to appease the spirits that she saw of people killed by her husband's guns. Now this story of the Winchester Mystery House has finally become a movie, with Dame Helen Mirren starring as the haunted Harris in the supernatural spookfest Winchester. And though audiences tend to love ghostly horror movies that are based on true events, we continue to debate whether ghosts even exist in the first place. Are they truly real, or just figments of our imagination? Are they usually friendly, like Casper, or mischievous, like Slimer? And if we find out they've been secretly committing sexual assault for several decades, will we feel extraordinarily awkward rewatching their movies? Well, that's what I intend to find out with Ghost Dad, starring Bill Cosby, who, before he legitimately ruined our childhoods, was still dominating the airwaves in 1990 with his family-friendly comedy. But now an edgy cartoon family by the name of The Simpsons was slowly starting to challenge the Huxtables' dominion over television. So even though his last exploit into movie comedy turned out to be an epic disaster, Bill Cosby decided to return to the movie screen with a little help from his legendary pal, Sidney Poitier, whose collaborations with Cosby in the 70s as his co-star and director turned out to be huge hits. Sadly, with Poitier only helping Cosby behind the camera and not in front of it this time, Ghost Dad stayed true to its name and quickly vanished from theaters, with bad box office and worse reviews. With no Razzie Awards for Cosby to show for it this time, and Sidney Poitier giving up directing for good. But once you put all personal misgivings about its lead star aside, does Ghost Dad deserve a second life after its death? I mean, let us be fair to this movie, if only for the sake of Sir Sidney Poitier. The man is an Oscar winner, a Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient, a former Bahamian ambassador to Japan, and much like Bill Cosby, he was also in an ad campaign for a soft drink.
Yes, there is a soda beverage out there that refreshes your thirst and invigorates your senses, and they call it Mr. Pibb.
Mr. Pibb is not a cola.
So seeing as Bill Cosby doesn't want to go too far outside his comfort zone, his character in this film is also the father to a bunch of precocious children, as played by Mel Kilm Jomo Warmer, Kesha Knigget Polium, and Lissa Bone Nay. But unlike Dr. Cliff Huxtable, the character of Elliot Hopper is a wifeless widower, who is now the sole provider for his 3 kids. And since he's a dad in a 90s family comedy, he is far too busy with work to spend some time with them. However, his company is on the verge of a giant merger that will provide some financial stability for his family, as well as give his oldest daughter the car that she wants for her birthday.
The company is also going to give me a car. And if they do, you can have Grumpy.
You won't regret this, Daddy, old pal.
Unfortunately, that Janet Jackson tape you hear blasting from the stereo is permanently stuck in the tape deck. Hope you enjoy listening to Love Will Never Do Without You 12 times in one day. So after Elliot completes another day at work alongside his secretary, who is apparently the female Milton from Office Space,
I believe you have my stapler.
he hops into a taxi cab to get back home, only to find that his driver is a demented satanist, played by Woodstock from Ace Ventura, who puts Elliot through a hellish joyride, in what is perhaps the greatest advertisement for Uber that I've ever seen. Also, why is this scene stealing the Tangerine Dream musical score from William Friedkin's Sorcerer? We get it, Universal Pictures, you've made better movies that we could be watching instead of this.
Do you worship Satan? Worship him! I am Satan! I am Satan!
And after the cab crashes off a bridge into the river below, Elliot emerges from the crash only to discover that he is now a ghost, with a scene that somehow rips off Patrick Swayze's Ghost 2 weeks before that flick came out. And trust me, you do not want to see the clay sculpture that Cosby ends up making with Demi Moore. But when Elliot's ghost arrives back home, he discovers that his kids are able to see their dad's spirit, but only when the lights in the house are turned off, and they can only hear his voice out of sync with his mouth. Because god damn it, Bill needs to make some goofy faces and voices to try and save this dying screenplay.
This man sound
him to go away like Mommy did?
No, honey. I'm smiling on a wow. I'm staying right here, okay?
Then all of a sudden, Elliot's ghost flies up into the sky and into the London home of paranormal researcher Edith Moser, played by the leprosy face guy from Braveheart, who tells Elliot that there's been a mix-up at the heavenly gates, and his spirit will not be able to cross over to the other side for the next couple of days.
It's the afterlife equivalent to misplacing your paperwork. It's rare, but it happens.
You see, after you had told that cab driver that you was Satan, St. Peter started to have some second thoughts about allowing you into heaven. So Elliot decides to return home because it turns out that the medical care for his dying wife forced him to sell the family's life insurance, and he must pretend he's still alive for the next couple of days so that once his company's merger goes through, his kids will get a brand new life insurance policy that will provide for them after their dad's death. And as you can expect, many hijinks begin to ensue as Elliot's family struggles to hide their dad's ghostly status from his co-workers and neighbors. And not only do these hijinks involve a desperate comedian who's mugging his face like he's Ernest P. Worrell on trucker speed, but we now know this comedian was a sexual deviant in his downtime. I mean, just wait until you see the scene where Cosby has to go in for a doctor's appointment to qualify for the life insurance. And since he can't give them a urine sample, he's forced to steal some piss off another guy at the bathroom stall trying to collect his own urine sample. Rated PG for penis grabbing. And let me not forget the scene where Cosby's love interest calls him over to her house to give Dr. Cosby a taste of his own medicine, if you know what I'm saying. Oh God, I'm going down to hell with him, aren't I?
Oh, well.
But even if you knew nothing about Bill Cosby's misbehavior, you would still think that this is one of the most contrived family comedies ever made. Yet, much like Leonard Part 6, it's fascinating in all the ways that it fails. I mean, none of these characters act like human beings, especially these kids who keep complaining that their dad still isn't giving them enough attention.
How am I gonna be a magician at career day tomorrow without the trunk of doom?
Despite the fact he's now a fucking ghost who only has a few days to make sure you kids will be provided for now that dad's dead.
Hi, kid.
Dad, I thought you had this big meeting you couldn't leave.
Yeah, I did, but I thought about it and you're more important.
We're gonna have a big finish.
Phrasing!
Oh, by the way, how did that whole skipping the business meeting that would have saved your kids from the poorhouse thing work out?
You walked out on a meeting.
This is for my children.
You're fired!
And the arguments between Cosby and his oldest daughter are so seriously dramatic that you think you're watching Cosby do an audition for August Wilson's Fences.
What you feel for me is what fathers feel for daughters. That's not love, it's father stuff.
That's love!
Romeo and Juliet, that's love. He took poison for her. What have you ever done for me?
Now listen here, young lady. I know a thing or two about getting the person you love to drink some poison and fall asleep. Plus, when Cosby decides to use his ghostly powers to scare off both his daughter's sleazy boyfriend and a nosy neighbor kid who I think is the mini-me for Steve Urkel, his acting in these scenes is a legitimately terrifying sneak peek of his secret dark side. If Bill Cosby was Harvey Dent, then these scenes would be the moment when we first saw the emergence of Big Bad Bill.
You mention one thing to anybody about this, and so help me, I'll do things to you that you can't even imagine.
Put the bitch on.
Put the bitch on the phone! The bitch can't make it to the phone. I'm here.
And spoiler alert, but we find out that Cosby isn't actually dead. He just got so scared by the crash that his spirit leapt out of his body. Because the only other case of this happening was when Cosby's dad got stuck in a bunny costume, which he put on for his young son's birthday party. What the fuck?
My father on my 9th birthday dressed up in a bunny costume for a whole week. Because the zipper stuck, you know, he didn't mean to do it, so he had to bump around the house, making it like a bunny for a whole week.
And just as Cosby's family leaves to find his body, his daughter slips on some roller skates her little sister left on the staircase. And with her body in a coma, she too becomes a ghost just like her daddy. The only way you can understand this fucking movie is to smoke as much weed as the screenwriters did when they wrote it. It's nothing short of a fascinating disaster, especially seeing as this was directed by Sidney Poitier, who knew how to direct a good comedy out of a stupid premise. But it also stars Bill Cosby. But at a mere 83 minutes, it does not overstay its welcome. So for bad movie fans, I would recommend it. I mean, unless you're still upset by all the shit we found out about Bill Cosby. I mean, hey, at least the guy's not continuing to make public appearances in the middle of his court case, right?
Bill Cosby is helped to the stage as he makes a surprise appearance at a jazz club in Philadelphia.
Nope. 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 Nope.
This house may be clear, but the fridge is all out of beer. So head towards the light and bring back some alcoholic spirits for a round of the awfully good drinking game. Take a shot or drink every time someone screams in terror at seeing Bill Cosby. You know, the sad thing is that this is the closest Universal Studios is ever gonna come to making that Invisible Man remake with Johnny Depp. Bill Cosby's ghost starts to flicker in and out. Oh, don't worry, Bill. It's not a big deal. You've just caught the same disease that the lead singer from a-ha had in the Take On Me music video. We see Edith pull out another nifty ghost gadget, one of which I'm pretty sure is just the interocitor from This Island Earth, and another one of which definitely makes the sound effect for a lightsaber.
Godspeed.
I mean, come on, Star Wars fans. You want to burn Rian Johnson at the stake because you think Last Jedi ruined the name of Star Wars, and yet Ghost Dad somehow gets a pass?
I sensed a disturbance in the spirit ether.
I felt a great disturbance in the Force.
And take a double shot when you spot Double Dare playing on the family's TV. And what a coincidence, because the news networks have just arranged for Mark Summers himself to be the judge on the next Cosby trial in order to spice up the ratings on the news coverage.
30 seconds left on the clock, Dr. Cosby. If you can't find that yellow flag inside that pool of Jell-O pudding, you're not going to be winning that Sega Genesis system, but you will win a fabulous vacation to the U.S. Penitentiary in beautiful Leavenworth, Kansas for the remainder of your life.
And on the nudity watch, I'm not going to be seeking out nudity in a movie that stars Bill Cosby. Especially when you have the guy saying dialogue like this.
There's a terrible draft under my gown. They took my underwear off.
Well, if you will please excuse me, folks, I need to begin cleansing myself of the nightmarish sights that this film has imprinted on my eyes. On the enjoyableness continuum scale from Bull to Bruce, Ghost Dad proves that the star of In the Heat of the Night and the screenwriters of Tremors do not make for fun family comedy. And Zoobles into a Zeba, out of Zebel Zaba. The only boos you're gonna hear from this ghost movie are the ones coming from the audience. I'm Jesse Schaefer, JoBlo.com, and what I think we could— Hey, wait a minute. Why is this movie rolling the credits already? The movie's still going underneath it. Well, okay then. If the movie wants to end prematurely, then I'm gonna end my review prematurely. That's all for my career, folks.
Jell-O pudding. JoBlo, he sure likes to drink a lot. And JoBlo watches movie like the hero.